What's up to all my Kashiwa Ishiguro fans? Today we are going to be hearing Ishiguro talk about his novel, The Unconsoled. And after that's done, we are going to have a discussion about The Unconsoled and his thoughts on it because it is Ishiguro's largest and most complex book. And one could also say his most controversial. So we are going to hear from Ishiguro now. And if you guys want more Ishiguro content, obviously subscribe and I will see you guys on the other side.
To be. Some of the words that come out are puzzled and frustrated. It's difficult. What's in your head as you're writing this? I mean, do you mean to be difficult? Do you mean to be uncompromising for the reader? Do you mean to be what?
I don't mean deliberately to be difficult. I think it's just bad manners to just deliberately be difficult. If you're talking to somebody, you have to try and say things as clearly as possible. But having said that, if what you're trying to say requires a certain odd way of saying it, then, well, that's the best you can do. And I think it's fair that these reviews, if you like, warn people who perhaps
don't expect an easy read.
Yeah, it's not an easy read. I wouldn't take it to the beach.
But describe the book in your own terms.
Well, it's essentially a book. Well, I guess one of the reasons it's not an easy read is because it's kind of involved with anxiety. It's some people have said it's like a long anxiety dream.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated by this idea of an anxiety dream, particularly like an anxiety about a performance that is coming up. I kind of feel that many of us are going through life with the sense that at some point there is this very important performance that's coming up. We're going to get pushed up there on the stage and all these people are going to judge us. And we should be preparing for it, but in the meantime, there are all these things to be getting on in life, and you have to look after the kids and do the shopping, and every now and again you stop and you realize you're not ready.
I get this performance anxiety every night.
Well, you're in a special position.
No, but go ahead. This is a question of a concert pianist, but it is the idea of anxiety about being on stage.
Well, I guess it's my kind of version.
Not on stage so much, but on stage as a metaphor for important events in your life.
I suppose it's the anxiety about the important event in your life. I mean, it may just be my version of the old kind of Judgment Day idea that there is some point to which all our lives are consciously or unconsciously moving, and at some point we're going to have to give an account of what we've been doing. But I'm not a religious person myself, and maybe I find it easier to use metaphors like performance anxiety, that we're all moving towards this big performance.
This is such an easy question to ask, but I mean, there's a sense that, is there any of Ishiguro in Rider? Are you here in Rider, the pianist, the principal character?
Well, only in a very glancing sense. I find it very difficult to write about any character unless it is in some sense based on some aspect of myself. And I suppose, I mean, this is rather a disturbing thing, but I can only really work up an interest in characters who come out of the less attractive aspects of myself. But that's not to say, I don't write in that kind of autobiographical mode. And certainly this isn't a book about me. He's a concert pianist, I'm an author, but I mean, that's not
Well, what's the unattractive aspect of you that's in him?
Well, that character, rather like the character in my last book, The Remains of the Day, I mean, finds it very difficult to give himself to other people, to open up his emotions. He's defensive to the point of, I think, almost being not human. But at the same time...
Not human?
Well, yes. I mean, there comes a point when, as with both of these characters, I think an obsession with control and restraint perhaps takes these people over the line into being people who are quite destructive.
Does writing about it make you less that way? Examining it and writing about it?
I don't know. It probably doesn't. I mean, I don't think there is a practical value in this sense.
Well, how about a cathartic value?
There might be a kind of cathartic value. I think a lot of writers like to write about certain areas that touch on maybe some kind of misalignment, some kind of wound deep in themselves. And this isn't because there's a practical benefit from doing so. It's just that if you know you've got some kind of messy wound somewhere that's never going to heal, you still want to kind of play about with it. And I think many writers move towards certain themes, certain ideas for that reason.
Tell me about the relationship between Sophie and Boris to Ryder.
Well, this is one of the odd things about the book. At first, they're just strangers he encounters in the city. But gradually, he starts to get vague memories about them. And he starts to think, well, maybe they're not strangers. Maybe, Sophie is in fact my wife. Maybe Boris is my son. And they certainly behave towards him as though he is the father stroke husband. And so he accepts this and goes along with it. I mean, this points to one of the odd ways in which the book works. It's not like a conventional story where you hear about somebody's life from youth to old age. Rather, you have a model where the protagonist walks into some kind of strange world, and he bumps into people who are aspects of himself from the past or aspects of important relationships he's had.
There's a familiarity and an unreality about his experience, an unknowingness.
Well, rather in the way dreams are sometimes, maybe, that it's peopled by people from the past.
Did you, I want to ask you about this, did you have anything to, you didn't have anything, we talked about this before, so when I sat down with you, you didn't have anything to do with the selection of this cover. This
No,
is a
I
John
didn't.
Bowman painting.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think
You
it's
like
a fine cover, yeah.
It was selected by the publishers, I guess, right?
Yes, it was, but the colors are rather good. The colors.
Oh, the colors.
Yeah.
So let's be honest here, you guys. The Unconsoled really does read like an anxiety dream. Ishiguro really captures that. And what's interesting about this novel is that Ishiguro is the king of the unreliable narrator, of taking us through a first-person POV with these very extreme scenarios and characters and getting inside their kind of warped reality. So you would think Mr. Ryder's, the main character's, anxiety dream would be very beautiful. But this novel clocks in at around 135,000 words, so an above average novel. My copy is about 530 pages, and it's not the easiest 530 pages. Something that I've done all throughout my life is that if I start a book and I commit to it, then I'm going to finish it. And that's why I pick my books very wisely and research them and think about them. And so when I was going through Ishiguro's bibliography, I think reading them in order from his first book, when I came upon this one, it was quite the slog, let me tell you guys. I remember I wanted to get it done so bad that I locked myself in the bathroom, and I had roommates and they were being noisy. So I locked myself in the bathroom, put some headphones on, and just read for 5 or 6 hours to get the last couple hundred pages done. And then pretty recently, probably 6 months or so ago, I did a reread and I felt the same way. Maybe I just wanted the anxiety dream to end. But first things first, this novel could be much shorter. But that's kind of one of Ishiguro's powers, is that in the first couple pages of the novel, we have Mr. Ryder talking to a porter, and the guy just starts ranting about being a porter, and we have to hear about that and what you should do. And what I think Ishiguro is trying to accomplish in this novel is very kind of Kafka-esque. He's trying to move into that zone. And one of the main staples of the novel is characters missing things. There are all these near misses happening, and there's all these events that are supposed to happen, and there's diversions, and that kind of feels somewhat the same when I look at kind of the core plot of this novel. It really fails, and I think at the start of this discussion, we hear Ishiguro talking about the critics, and he reads everything, and we're maybe just not reading it the right way. But I really want to ask, what's the point of this novel? I mean, it's a display of his writing prowess and kind of going deep into an anxiety dream, but it almost seems like navel gazing at some level, because when we look at his other novels, they create a commentary through going really deep into one of the characters. We get this very big commentary, and we hear Ishiguro talk about in the video about it's a commentary on performance and whatnot. But to write and make me read a book that's 135,000 pages to talk about, and I guess this happens, the performance anxiety. I have this with the channel sometimes. Sometimes I'll be thrown into a state of paralysis, saying I have to perform, I have to do better. If I want to be able to quit my job or do something, I'm going to have to make something of myself and build something outside of just the 9-to-5 job. And so there really is that anxiety. But once again, Ishiguro takes it to such an extreme level. He was coming off the success of Remains of the Day, which is such a beautiful novel. And I think one of the reasons he wrote this is because he wanted to shatter all the expectations. He worked for 6 years on this novel. I mean, and you could see it. It's very layered, and after and it was a sharp divergence from what he did with Remains of the Day, because we have this what they would call him, this Japanese author with the pale view of the hills, and then Artist of the Floating World, and he was kind of being tagged as this Japanese expatriate in Britain who immigrated over, and he's going and exploring those things, and he pivots and just writes one of the best novels on Britain, I've ever read. And I think that also annoyed him, and all the attention and success that came with that. And there's a commentary of the performance, because in 1993 the movie Remains of the Day comes out, and like he becomes kind of a big star, and Ishiguro is almost making a commentary on himself. And in his whole collection, this one kind of stands alone. A lot of his other novels like can connect with another novel. They kind of have a sister twin. Another thing I noticed is 500 pages packed into 3 days. Novels that do that, in my opinion, aren't as good. If I had to rate this, I'm giving it a 3.5, maybe 4 stars. I'm probably keeping it at a 3.5 though, which is pretty low for me in like Ishiguro novels. Because like when you look at another Japanese author, Murakami, I think in his book After Dark, that's all taking place across one night in Tokyo. And other novels like that, they just usually fail if they have too short of a time frame. Like you really have to be good to pull that off, because the movement of time helps characterization, and certain things build up, and it's a very easy tactic. But to crunch everything means you have to explain everything. So what are your thoughts about The Unconsoled? I'm going to be making more Kashiro Ishiguro content throughout the next couple months. I'll be focusing on the parts of this interview and some other ones, probably reviewing all of his books. And if you guys want to see me rank all of Kashiro Ishiguro's novels, you can find that right over here.